If you're a diehard Browns fan and love breaking down the game like we do, hit that subscribe button and turn on the bell so you never miss a blitz. It was another rough Sunday for the Cleveland Browns, and you could feel it from the moment Kevin Stefanski stepped up to the podium after that brutal 32-13 loss to the New England Patriots. The coach's tone wasn't angry, and it wasn't dismissive, it was weary. You could tell he'd been through a long day, one that went far beyond the scoreboard. Because this wasn't just about a game that got out of hand. This was about a roster battered and bruised, a team limping into the bye week with more questions than answers, and a coach who knows that keeping this season alive is going to take more than film study and motivational speeches. It's going to take getting bodies back on the field, and right now, the Browns' injury list looks like something out of a bad dream. Stefanski knew the questions were coming. The injuries were impossible to ignore. From before kickoff to the final whistle, Cleveland watched one key contributor after another go down, or limp off, or simply not return. The head coach, calm as ever, went through the list, one by one, giving updates that ranged from cautiously optimistic to downright concerning. And as he spoke, it became clear that this team, already struggling to find its rhythm, is facing one of the most challenging stretches of Stefanski's tenure. The first name he mentioned was the one that hurt the most, rookie linebacker Carson Schweissinger. The second-round pick has been an absolute revelation for Cleveland this season, a tackling machine who seemed to be everywhere on the field. But early in the game against the Patriots, disaster struck. Schweissinger came up limping after a tackle, grimaced, and never returned. The initial fear on the sideline was an ankle sprain, but when Stefanski addressed it afterward, his tone left fans uneasy. "We'll see how he looks coming out of the bye," the coach said, adding that it's a week-to-week injury. That's not the kind of statement that inspires confidence. The whispers around the league are that Schweissinger could be out 4 to 6 weeks, but Stefanski wouldn't go that far. Still, the fact that placing him on injured reserve was not discussed might be the only silver lining here. The Browns are praying it doesn't come to that, because losing Schweissinger for any extended stretch would be a gut punch to a defense that has leaned heavily on his instincts and energy. This kid wasn't just producing numbers, he was setting the tone. Through 7 games, Schweissinger had racked up 64 tackles, a sack, an interception, and a pass deflection. But the stats only tell part of the story. Watch the film, and you'll see a young linebacker who plays like he's been in the league for years. He reads plays fast, takes sharp angles, and has that intangible fire that good teams build around. That's why his injury feels like more than just another name on the report. It's the loss of a heartbeat in the middle of that defense. And it's the kind of setback that tests not just depth, but identity. Then came another blow, this one to the offense. Rookie running back Quinton Judkins, another second-round gem, left the game with a shoulder injury. If Schweissinger is the spark on defense, Judkins is the pulse of the offense, a violent runner with balance, vision, and an uncanny ability to make something out of nothing. He's the Browns' leading rusher, and even though Stefanski sounded a bit more optimistic about him, you could hear the frustration in his voice. Day-to-day, he said. We'll see how he responds this week. Thankfully, the timing of the bye week gives Judkins a little breathing room to heal up before the next test. Stefanski hinted that without that break, Judkins' status might be a bit different, which tells you just how close the Browns came to losing another foundational player for longer. But the list didn't stop there. On defense, cornerback Tyson Campbell, one of the team's more recent acquisitions, suffered a concussion during the game. He's now in the league's concussion protocol, which means there's no firm timetable for his return. Campbell had been showing flashes of the shutdown potential that made him so highly regarded coming out of college, and losing him for any length of time stretches a secondary that has already been fighting to find consistency. Add to that the fact that safety Rayshon Jenkins exited early with a groin injury, another day-to-day situation, and suddenly you've got a defense that looks alarmingly thin at key positions. The Browns came into the season believing they'd built one of the most physical secondaries in the league, but physicality can only go so far when the bodies keep dropping. In the middle of that gloom, though, there was at least one bit of positive news. Wide receiver Cedric Tillman, who's been sidelined for a few weeks with a nagging hamstring issue, is expected to return after the bye. That's a big deal, especially for quarterback Dillon Gabriel, who's holding on to the starting job and desperately needs more help on the outside. Tillman might not have massive numbers yet, Just 11 catches for 206 yards and 2 touchdowns. But those plays have come at crucial moments. He's a strong, physical target who brings toughness to the passing game, and his return gives the offense a much-needed jolt. Stefanski mentioned that Tillman's hamstring has responded well to treatment, and barring setbacks, he'll be full go for their next matchup. For a team that's been starved for good news lately, that's something worth celebrating. Still, it's impossible to ignore how this game against the Patriots exposed Cleveland's fragility. This wasn't just a bad loss. It was the kind that leaves scars. The Patriots dominated the line of scrimmage, out-executed the Browns on both sides of the ball, and looked sharper, hungrier, more composed. For Stefanski, watching his team unravel while key players fell one by one must have been agonizing. He's built his reputation on preparation, discipline, and adaptability, but there's only so much a coach can do when his roster starts breaking down. After the game, he didn't make excuses. He didn't point fingers. Instead, he talked about getting back to fundamentals, correcting the mistakes, and using the bye week wisely. It's classic coach speak, sure, but in this case, it's also a necessity. This bye week isn't just a break, it's a lifeline. What makes the timing of this bye so critical is that it allows the Browns to pause, regroup, and try to get healthy before the second half of the season. They've got a roster loaded with young talent: Schweissinger, Judkins, Tillman, but that youth also means volatility. When you rely on rookies to carry major roles, injuries don't just hurt. They disrupt chemistry, rhythm, and confidence. The defense, once seen as the strength of this team, now faces a test of depth. Without Schweissinger commanding the middle, someone's going to have to step up. Maybe it's veteran Sione Takataki, maybe it's one of the younger backups, but whoever it is will need to fill some enormous shoes. Because make no mistake, losing Schweisinger's sideline-to-sideline presence could change the entire complexion of how this defense operates. On offense, the situation is a bit more manageable, but not by much. Judkins' shoulder issue means Stefanski and offensive coordinator Alex Van Pelt may have to tweak the game plan, leaning more on the passing game or spreading carries among backups. The return of Tillman helps, but this group needs consistency. Dillon Gabriel, still establishing himself as the starter, has shown flashes of poise and accuracy, but without a healthy supporting cast, those flashes have been fleeting. The Browns' offense has been a roller coaster. Efficient one drive, stagnant the next, and a lot of that stems from the revolving door of personnel. Injuries, again, have robbed them of rhythm. There's also a psychological component to all of this. Losing players isn't just about replacing production, it's about maintaining belief. Teams in the NFL live on confidence, and when that starts to waver, everything else follows. Stefanski's biggest challenge now might not even be on the field. It might be keeping his locker room steady. You can sense that this group still believes in what they're building, but it's hard to stay optimistic when every week seems to bring another setback. The bye week offers a reset button, but the margin for error is shrinking fast. Looking ahead, the Browns know what's at stake. The AFC North is brutal, and if they want to stay in the race, they need to start stacking wins immediately after the break. That means getting healthier, yes, but it also means rediscovering their identity. This team was built on physicality, balance, and toughness, 3 traits that can't be faked. The players who are healthy will need to embody that every snap. Stefanski's leadership will be tested more than ever, but he's been here before. In 2020, when the Browns shocked everyone with an 11-5 season and a playoff run, it came after a year of adversity, doubt, and noise. Maybe, just maybe, this is another chance to prove they're still made of that same grit. For now, though, it's all about healing. Schweissinger rehabbing that ankle, Judkins resting that shoulder, Campbell clearing concussion protocol, Jenkins shaking off the groin strain, Tillman ramping back up to full speed. Each of those stories will play out over the next couple of weeks, and each one carries its own weight. Because when this team returns, they won't just be playing for standings or stats. They'll be playing to remind everyone, including themselves, that the Browns can take a punch and still get up swinging. So as the sun set on a long, bruising Sunday, and Kevin Stefanski left the podium, there was no grand statement or fiery quote to hang on to. Just quiet resolve. The Browns are battered, yes, but not broken. The bye week is here, the injuries are real, and the work begins now. If they can emerge from this stretch stronger and healthier, there's still time to turn things around. But for that to happen, they'll need more than luck. They'll need heart. And if you've watched Kevin Stefanski's Browns long enough, you know that's one thing they'll never stop fighting with. Enjoying the content so far? Smash that like button and drop your take in the comments. We want to hear what you think about the Browns this season. All right, let's dive straight into it, because the buzz coming out of Cleveland right now is absolutely wild. The locker room tension that's been simmering beneath the surface for months might finally be boiling over. And at the center of it all, we've got two massive personalities, Myles Garrett and Kevin Stefanski. Yeah, you heard that right. The star defensive end, the heart and soul of the Cleveland Browns defense, is reportedly clashing head-on with his head coach, and according to several sources close to the team, Garrett didn't hold back. He supposedly told Stefanski straight up, "This is how you destroy our team." Now, we don't have cameras rolling inside that locker room, but when a leader like Garrett drops something like that, it shakes the entire organization. The whispers started late last week, after what was described as a heated exchange following practice. The Browns had just wrapped up a frustrating session, the kind that exposes deeper issues than just X's and O's. And from what insiders are saying, Myles Garrett finally snapped. He's been the ultimate professional for years, carrying the defense on his back, keeping his cool through coaching changes, quarterback drama, and all the chaos that comes with being a Cleveland Brown. But apparently, this time, something about the team's preparation and leadership pushed him too far. He went right at Stefanski, not out of disrespect, but out of sheer frustration with what he believes is a growing disconnect between the locker room and the coaching staff. From what's being whispered, Garrett's main issue seems to be about accountability and direction. He's reportedly been unhappy with how the coaching staff handles in-game adjustments and locker room communication. Sources say Garrett feels like the players aren't being heard, that their input during key situations is being ignored. Now, for a veteran like Garrett, who's been through the highs and lows with this franchise, that kind of disconnection hits hard. He's not the type to stir drama for attention. When he speaks, it's usually because something's gone really wrong. And according to those who've been around the team, this confrontation wasn't a quiet, behind-closed-doors disagreement. It was loud, emotional, and raw. Players were stunned. Some even said they'd never seen Garrett that animated before. To make things even more interesting, there's been talk that some of the locker room actually sided with Garrett. That's huge. When a leader of his caliber stands up to the head coach, it can either divide a team or light a fire under it. And it sounds like right now, things are hanging in the balance. Stefanski, known for his calm and composed demeanor, apparently didn't back down either. He reportedly defended his coaching methods and told Garrett that the team needs to trust the process. But when a team's season starts slipping, when the offensive play calling feels flat and the defense is forced to bail them out week after week, that trust the process line starts to wear thin. Garrett, by all accounts, feels like that process isn't working anymore. Now, this isn't the first time tension's been hinted at between players and Stefanski. Even last year, there were quiet rumors that some veterans were growing frustrated with how rigid the offensive system was and how slow the coaching adjustments seemed. But for it to reach a boiling point with Myles Garrett, that's a whole new level. This isn't just about strategy anymore. It's about leadership, respect, and the emotional heartbeat of the team. When your top defensive star publicly, or even privately, calls you out like that, it sends shockwaves through every corner of the building. Front office, players, even the media who cover the team daily, everyone feels it. Let's be honest, Myles Garrett has earned the right to speak his mind. He's the cornerstone of that defense, the guy who's been the face of the franchise through thick and thin. He's played hurt, played through chaos, and still produced at an elite level. He's seen coaches come and go, and he's always been that steady presence, mature, measured, and focused on winning. So when someone like him decides to confront the head coach, it's not impulsive. It's calculated. It's coming from a deep place of wanting to see change. The man wants to win. He's tired of watching the same mistakes, the same lack of urgency, the same predictable patterns that cost them big games. According to one insider, Garrett's exact words were something along the lines of, "You keep making these decisions, and you're going to lose this locker room. This is how you destroy a team." That's powerful. It tells you everything about where the emotions are right now. Garrett's not just frustrated about play calls. He's worried about the culture, the vibe inside that locker room, the sense that something's slipping away. You can tell he feels the players deserve better, more communication, more flexibility, more belief from the top down. The aftermath of that confrontation, from what we've heard, was icy. Stefanski reportedly walked out of the room without another word, and the players were left stunned. Some tried to calm things down, others just kept their distance. Practices the following days were said to be weirdly quiet. You know that awkward tension when everyone's pretending everything's fine, but you can feel the storm in the air? That's what it's been like in Cleveland this week. Even players doing media appearances seemed off, giving generic answers, avoiding certain topics, keeping things surface level. That's never a good sign. Behind the scenes, though, the Browns organization is trying to downplay it. You'll hear the usual PR lines: passionate discussion, healthy disagreement. Everyone wants to win. But make no mistake, this was more than just a disagreement. This was a breaking point. The question now is, what happens next? Does Stefanski take Garrett's words to heart and make real changes? Or does this become a power struggle between the locker room and the head coach? Because history tells us, once a star player loses faith in the leadership, it's almost impossible to rebuild that trust without major changes. And here's the crazy part. Some folks inside the league are already speculating that this could have long-term implications. If things don't smooth out, if the Browns stumble in the next few games, don't be surprised if people start whispering about potential coaching changes. That's how serious this could get. When your locker room leader and your head coach are no longer on the same page, the dominoes fall fast. But let's take a step back for a second. This might not be all doom and gloom. Sometimes, teams need these kinds of moments. Those explosive confrontations that force everyone to look in the mirror. Maybe Garrett's outburst is exactly what Cleveland needs to wake up. Maybe it'll ignite something inside that locker room. A sense of urgency. A reminder of what's at stake. After all, this Browns roster has talent everywhere. The defense is elite. The offense has weapons. And this city is hungry for a winner. Maybe this is the spark that turns things around. Still, it's a risky situation. You don't want a fracture between your star player and your coach to become a full-blown divide. Garrett's influence in that locker room is massive. Players respect him. If he's frustrated, they'll start to question things too. And Stefanski, for all his football IQ and calm personality, has to find a way to address this head-on without letting pride get in the way. Because right now, it's not about who's right or wrong. It's about saving the season and keeping that locker room united. As of now, both sides are keeping quiet publicly. No press statements, no open comments, just a lot of speculation. But behind that silence, you can feel the weight of it. Everyone's waiting to see what happens next. Will Garrett and Stefanski sit down and hash it out? Or will this tension keep simmering until it spills over again? Either way, this story's not going away anytime soon. Because when the best player on your team tells the head coach, "You're destroying us," that's not just frustration, that's a warning. And if the Browns don't figure it out soon, that warning might turn into a reality. So yeah, this isn't just another sports rumor. This feels like the kind of moment that defines a season. Myles Garrett versus Kevin Stefanski, two leaders with the same goal, but very different ideas of how to get there. The question now is, which vision will win out? And more importantly, can the Browns survive the fallout long enough to turn things around before it's too late? Because in Cleveland right now, one thing's for sure. The storm has arrived, and everyone's watching to see who weathers it first. Thanks for riding with us on another Browns Blitz. If you liked the video, share it with a fellow fan, hit subscribe, and ring that bell so you're always part of the Dawg Pound conversation. Go Browns!